is April the 8th, 2016. My name is Tanya Finchum. I'm with Oklahoma State University, and today I am in Burlington, Oklahoma, Alfalfa County, and this is part of our Cowboy in Every County project, and I am here with Marlene and Keith Kisling. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming.
Let's start with Marlene. When and where were you born?
I was born in Kansas, Hartner, Kansas. Actually, I should say Keith was born there also in 1948.
Okay.
So I grew up in Kansas before we moved to Oklahoma.
And what did your parents do for a living?
They farmed in the area, and then my dad was a banker for a short time, but mostly they farmed.
And what did they farm?
They farmed wheat. They had wheat, and they always had cattle too. So.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I had 4 younger brothers, so I was
a house full of boys.
Oldest. Yeah, right.
So did you play rough and play sports with them?
No, not so much. No, I really didn't. When they got big enough to beat up on me, I decided I'll leave that alone. But anyway, they were all younger than me. So.
And where did you go to elementary school?
Right there in Kiowa, Kansas, and
high school.
And high school in Kiowa also.
And what year did you graduate from high school?
And I graduated from high school in '66. In fact, this year we're going to have our 50th class reunion, which I'm really, really looking forward to. And
how big of a class was it?
It was 33, which for Kiowa that was probably about the average at that time. And in Kiowa, Kansas is just across the state line, so I grew up just a few miles from Oklahoma.
Did you have a favorite subject?
Math. When I went to college, that was my degree, was in math education, so that's what I enjoyed the most.
And were you in FFA or anything like that?
No, back then I was in 4-H, but they didn't have an FFA program for women's or girls, so I just did the 4-H program.
So 4-H would not have gone to Stillwater for Roundup then if you were in Kansas?
No, we did go to a camp though in Oklahoma for some 4-H camp I thought I remembered going to, but no, I didn't go to Stillwater for that.
Okay. So. Your turn, Keith. When and where were you born?
I was also born in Hartner, Kansas, June 21st, 47. So now you know how old I am. But I actually grew up about a mile east of where we're at now. So I've been in Okie all my life since I got out of the hospital as a baby. And went to school here, went to grade school, went to high school in Burlington. Had a class of 12, graduating class of 12. I think there was 150 in the whole school, grade school through high school. We've had a lot of very well educated people come out of Burlington, Oklahoma. They have a really nice school there, a Class B school. A lot of the kids have been top 10 freshmen and seniors at OSU, so we're real proud of our school.
And what year would you have graduated from high school?
Graduated from high school in '65. Then I went 2 years to Alva to college, Northwestern, and then I finished up at Stillwater with an Ag Ed degree. And then I came back to Burlington, and the ag teacher that had been there for 21 years, he stayed an extra year so he could help me get the job, and then I taught here at Burlington for 4 years before starting our livelihood and just farming. And that's all we've done is farm. We haven't had an outside job. We've just made that work. We both had teaching degrees, but we decided that this is what we were going to do.
What year did you graduate from OSU?
70.
70. And did you go to OSU too?
Yes, I started out at Northwestern also
Okay.
for a couple of years. I was going to go to K-State, and I was going with Keith at the time and decided I'll go to an Oklahoma school where he is. And so I went to Northwestern, and then I went to Stillwater. After we got married, I joined him at Stillwater, and I went there till he graduated, and I still lacked a few more classes to graduate since I was a year behind him in school. So I actually finished at Northwestern.
Okay.
But I did get a degree in math education.
Well, then we should back up and ask how you two met.
Well, since our towns are so close together, I mean, we only live 10 miles apart, we actually met at church. I saw him at church, and we got to know each other through that, and dated in high school then, and then, of course, he went off to college, and I still had another year in school. But anyway, when I got out of school then. I joined him at Northwestern, and then, of course, he went on to Oklahoma State while I was still at Northwestern for a year. And then after we got married, we both went down there till he graduated.
And why OSU from Alva? What took you to OSU?
Alva was only Northwestern was just a 2-year ag college.
Okay.
So I couldn't get a degree in ag education over there. Plus, I'd always wanted to go to OSU, but Dad kind of needed help on the farm, and it was close, and she was going to school there too, for a little bit. So we both went to school there for 1 year at the same time. But I wanted to end up in OSU and get my degree down there. So.
Had you been to campus before?
Oh yes,
Well,
and 4-H roundup and a lot of FFA activities. At that time, they had the state convention, FFA convention there at Stillwater. So I spent time down there for that. But I still remember when I went down there, my folks didn't go with me, and neither one of them had been in college, so I hadn't been to Stillwater a lot. And that was quite an experience, loading the car up with what clothes I needed and going to OSU and finding out how to get enrolled and find a place to live. Quite an experience for me, because I hadn't been out of Alfalfa County very much.
Well, did you live in a dorm?
No, I lived with different individuals. We had a close friend that had a trailer house down there, and I lived with him for about a semester. And then I moved in with a couple of buddies because he got married, so I had to move. He made me move out, believe it or not, and I went and lived with them then for 1 semester before school was out.
And then when you two got married, where did you live in Stillwater?
We lived in the student housing there on the north side of campus, and yes, we lived there for, well, I guess 1.5 years. We'd come home in the summers to help with the farming of his folks, and then we'd go back again in the fall. That second year we were down there, and that's when he also did his student teaching 1 semester. So I took off from school that semester to go with him to do student teaching, and then when he was through, I guess he still had 1 more semester at college, and then of course we moved back to Stillwater again for his last semester, and then I finished up at Northwestern.
Back and forth.
Back and forth, yes, a couple of times.
And
I had a job at the, excuse me, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had a job at the meat lab at the time. The old meat lab was down close to the old animal science building, which is about where the food tech center's at. It's kind of in that area. Well, then during that time they moved it out west of town on Western, I think it is, and now I don't even know if that one's they do any meat work out there. But anyway, I spent any hour that I didn't have class, they had me down scheduled to work. So I worked at the meat lab. That's how we survived. Ate a lot of beanie weenies.
Yeah. And I worked just a little bit. I didn't really work that much. I worked actually in the student union kind of as a temp. They needed temporary help off and on, and so I would do some of that. But I really didn't work a lot while I was down there.
Well, when you would come home for the summer to work, what would you be doing on the farm?
Well, it's harvest.
Okay.
Wheat harvest.
Wheat.
In June, so we would be here a little bit ahead of time to help get machinery ready, but mostly just help Dad. Our folks both paid for our education, so we didn't have that after we got out of school to pay for, and so what we did was help them on the farm when we come back in the summertime to help pay for that.
I should back up. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Just one.
Just
I have
one.
One younger brother.
One brother. And how young were you when they put you on the tractor for the first time?
I think I was 9, and they didn't have power steering or a foot clutch. It was pretty risky. I look back on that, and I was a lot younger than that when I was just driving it around the yard, but in the field by myself I was 9.
They didn't check on you? Your mother?
Oh, some, yeah. We didn't have 2-ways. We didn't have cell phones.
That's
They'd
true.
drive by and wave and be sure I was okay,
Make sure you weren't doing donuts or wheelies.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though I grew up on a farm, my dad never had me on the tractor, so I was always the one that brought out the meals or did something else. I he didn't, with 4 younger brothers, I guess he didn't think he needed me to drive the tractor, so I actually never drove the tractor much. I was more the go-to person, go get the part or take the meals to the field or the sandwiches or something like that. But yeah,
Spent more time in the kitchen.
right, I spent a lot more time in the kitchen.
What did your mother can and you helped with that?
Yes,
Can be.
some. She really wasn't a big canner, really, but yeah, she made wonderful meals, so she was quite the cook back then. So
You had chickens?
no, we didn't.
Did you have chickens?
Yes, we
You
did.
had chicken?
We raised chickens.
We had rabbits for some reason for a short time, and I remember having the rabbits. But anyway,
And chickens you would have for, who would be the one to harvest them, if that's the right word?
I remember that distinctly. Mother pretty well did that because I only remember that as being younger because the rest of the time I was in the field all day long. But I remember that happening, yeah, on the clothesline a lot.
That's a question a colleague always asks, so I'd ask that for her. Whose job was it? And it typically has been the mother. Yeah. What did you have to milk?
Oh, yeah, don't get me started on that one. Yeah, that was every morning, and my younger brother, he did it some, but not as much as I had to. And of course, I was really involved in FFA, ag, and sports. But every morning and every night after ball practice, it was milk that cow. We only had one. But she was difficult to milk, and she kicked, and I milked 5-gallon bucket of milk from her when she fresh, and so it was a project that I didn't appreciate, and go to school smelly, and I told my dad whenever I left home and got married, I said, I appreciate everything you did for me, raising me and paying for my college education, but the one thing I won't do to my kids is make them milk a cow.
Did you have to milk?
no, I did not have to milk. In fact, I'm trying to think what kind of chores I had. Mine were just mostly around the house, cleaning house and doing the yard work and all that kind of stuff.
Milking a cow. Well, wait, you didn't make your kids?
No,
Actually,
ma'am.
Did you even have a cow?
No.
Okay.
Well, we had one that was a nurse cow for the show calves at one point early on, but that kind of dried up, so we quit doing that. Bought the calves older, so we didn't have to do that. But yeah, we had a cow for a while. And I don't ever remember milking her though. The calves, we had plenty of calves for that.
Well, when you were having to milk, they couldn't buy bought milk at that point?
What was that?
You couldn't buy bought milk. I mean, you couldn't buy milk.
No,
So you
I
had
don't
to
think
milk.
we could buy bulk milk. We sold some bulk milk to the neighbors, mainly for the cream.
Okay.
The cow we had would have a lot of cream on top of the milk, so we sold that.
Did your mother make homemade butter?
No, we had a lot of homemade ice cream.
Yeah, that would be better. Was she a member of the Homemaker Club, Home Demonstration
Yeah,
Club?
she was. My mother was, and there was a few of those ladies that were friends all through life. She died at 89, and there's one of them still alive in the community. I think she's almost 100, and they always had that club, and they'd meet once a month, I think. And I'd remember going from school on somebody else's school bus to that house after school, so I could meet up with Mom and go home instead of sending me home.
Do you remember the name of the club?
Happy Day Club.
Right.
Happy Day Club.
Was your mother a member? of
No, I get to thinking, no, Mother wasn't in a lot of clubs because there was 5 of us kids, so
No
she was
time.
very busy. Yeah, so yeah, she really wasn't in a lot of clubs.
Well, what was Burlington like during your childhood? I guess for you.
Well, I think you'd call it a very conservative community. It consisted of a pretty large co-op, as you saw coming into town with the big elevators, so it's a wheat area. And the school and the co-op and churches, I think we had 2 or 3 churches in town. But it was a conservative town, and we didn't have a lot of migrant people coming and going. We do have that now, some with oil and gas. But the people you grew up, the people you started first grade with are the kids that you graduated with in the 12th grade, because they just stayed around.
Well, what would you do for fun?
You know, I don't, sports and FFA is what, that's pretty well what we did, and we were pretty good, especially in ag and FFA. Won a lot of awards as a group.
Compete at the county fair?
Well, nationally.
No, nationally.
Yeah, county fairs, and we had an extremely good ag teacher. Ellie Castle was one of the best in the state at the time. And he'd started taking us as 4-H members to all the activities. And then by the time we got in FFA, well, we had a head start on some of the larger schools that only had those kids for 4 years. He'd have us for 8.
I think what Kansas City is where some of the national things would be.
Yeah, we won the livestock judging team that I was on, won both state contests in livestock judging, and then we won both national contests, Denver, National Western, and Kansas City. And I don't think that's ever happened before with the same 4 boys, same 4 kids. So we did well, and pretty good in sports too.
Of those 4, did any of the other ones go to OSU?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he did. He was my age. The other 2 were a year younger. Neither one of them did, but one of them did. And he was on the team at OSU with me too at the same time, the livestock judging team.
So you were on that team too?
Yep, and both of us won national contests there. I was on the team that won Fort Worth. He's on the team that won Denver.
Who was the faculty member that worked with the team? Do you remember?
That worked with
With the team, wasn't there?
Dr. Penny, and he passed away a couple years later. Dr. Penny.
Not Tolachek or whatever.
Tadashek?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tadashek. No, he was before that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of sports?
We didn't have football. She did at Kiowa, but Burlington had basketball, track, volleyball, tennis, big in basketball and tennis. Went to state every year in volleyball. Not real good in track, but
Baseball?
we had baseball in grade school, but we didn't have baseball in high school.
Basketball. The girls and boys, both. And the track was both.
Yes.
And volleyball for?
Volleyball, It was at the time of the year before basketball started. You could only, you couldn't practice basketball all year long, so you had to have either tennis. So they had tennis in the spring and volleyball in the fall. And those were our sports away from basketball. Basketball was the big sport, and that drew the people into the ball games in the wintertime.
What was the mascot?
Elk. We were the Elks.
Burlington Elks.
And basketball is still very popular at Burlington. It's the sport at Burlington. So.
And how many's in a class here now, roughly?
A little bit more than that, than my 12, but close to the same. In fact, this year they've got one of the largest numbers of students that they've had in a long time. And as good a school system as we have, we draw from the surrounding areas. Will come in, especially, we've got an extremely good ag program right now. And so we'll draw from Alva and Cherokee and the surrounding areas of parents that want their kids to come in and get some education, giving public speaking and parliamentary procedure and some of the areas that they wouldn't get at their hometown.
Well, it was music and art part of the curriculum too?
Well, in Kiowa it was. It was big in Kiowa, it really was. And the sports, there just wasn't that much girls' sports. It seemed like it was mostly the boys that did the basketball, and if there was a girls' team, I was not on it. But anyway, and...
We'll tell them about Jack's. Jack champion, Barber County Jack champion.
In grade school, we had jacks. The kids would play jacks, and I won just the local jacks tournament. He loves to mention that, but anyway.
Well, I mean, county champion, that's a big
That's
deal.
pretty
The music
good.
was big. I played the piano all through school, and so I entered a lot of contests with piano solos and vocal solos also, actually. But as far as the sports, I really wasn't into the sports so much. But yeah, Kyle was a little bit bigger than Burlington, so they did have a little bit more going on. But yeah, we did have the football, and it was big in Kiowa.
Would they have to play Burlington, or since it was across state?
I had basketball. I don't think
We
they
did
ever
basketball.
did. We did back then.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So your paths may have crossed
Yeah.
earlier.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we knew each other a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So the biggest town closest to Burlington would be
Cowboy.
Well, Alva in Oklahoma, probably. Alva or Cherokee, they're both actually about the same distance from Burlington.
Okay. And you had your own car when you went to OSU?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have
My
to.
dad told me if I didn't smoke, drink, or chase wild women until I was 18, he'd buy me a car. And so I didn't, and he did. So at 18, I got a car and had it for a year or two. It was a beautiful car, a piece of junk. He warned me, but I didn't listen. So before I went to Stillwater, I had change. I bought a different car.
And when you packed it up to go to Stillwater, do you remember what you put in it? I mean, refrigerator,
Yeah.
microwave, no,
No,
probably not.
No, because the boy I lived with was a year older than I was. And this trailer house was smaller than this room. It was little. And so there wasn't room for anything except a few clothes. He had everything else. So
One or two suitcases.
I didn't take very much with me.
Campus changed much since then?
You know, I knew the campus really well because I did deliveries with the meat lab. Drove a van around all day long, every day. So I knew campus well. It is so different now than it was then. You know, Stout and Murray, we delivered there all the time. They don't even house that anymore for dormitories. So, and they've torn down dormitories that were built new after I left. They've already torn them down and built new apartments west of campus, you know, over in that area.
Right.
So we've got a house there now, and we're there some. So we kind of get around and we know it a little bit. But
Well, when you were there, did the student union have a bowling alley in the basement, or had they already taken it out? It was still
no,
there?
it was still
It
there.
was still there. Make use of it any?
We didn't. I don't know if you and I ever
I
did.
don't remember ever.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
down in the basement, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I knew it was there, but we didn't have time
didn't
to
have time.
do that.
No.
Do you spend any time in the library?
I was just in there yesterday, by the way.
Back then, though.
Kyle Ray. I went in to see Kyle Ray. He's second floor on the south end of Student Union, and so while I was there, I walked around. I walked around inside the Student Union and looked things over, and I don't know my way around in there at all.
Yeah.
But I've been in there. I'm on the OSU Foundation board. We've had some meetings in there, and so we've been in there together a time or two, but not a lot.
And what about the library? Did you spend
I
any time
didn't
in there?
spend a lot of time in the library. Now my kids did, but I think, but I didn't spend a lot of time in there.
How about you?
And actually, I don't remember going there that much either. I guess we just pretty well studied on our own or studied with friends. He had some friends he studied with at times on some classes, and I did the same. But
Well, they say it's changed a lot too since that time period. So
I've had some meetings in there also and seen it, and it's about the same as it was. I don't think it's changed very much.
Well, the main part is they moved the card catalogs from the second floor entrance. That area was
I do remember that.
old card catalogs.
Yeah.
That was a sad day.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now it's probably just all on computer anyway, so you don't even
A good chunk of
need
it
a
is.
card
Yeah.
catalog. Yeah.
Well, when you were there before Marlene joined you, who would do your laundry?
Oh, I did it. Well,
You probably
no, I
did,
didn't do
huh?
very much laundry. I do remember maybe a few times, but You know, you don't ever change the sheets or the pellet case. That's just common knowledge. Guys don't ever change that. So just clothes, and when I'd come home, I'd just have Mother do it.
Yeah, he'd come home about every weekend.
Yeah,
so
I
I
spent
would
a
see
long
him
time
then.
back here.
So.
We're doing things on the farm with your dad.
I'd come back to see a certain lady, and yeah, work on the farm too. So
Well, what were some of the other things you would do on the farm growing up, besides milking the cow,
yeah, well,
driving the tractor?
we did a lot of hunting. You know, like typical farm guy would do. When I was smaller, we rode our bicycles everywhere. I had a motor scooter. A couple of us had motor scooters, and we'd trip all over the place on our motor scooters. But I was outside. I didn't like school very well. I liked to be outside, and I don't care how cold or hot it was. I was outside if I could be outside, and you know, when I'd rather do that is to study. Kind of took a toll on me till I learned to study in college. You know, I really had to study.
Well, describe the house that you grew up in.
It's 2-story with a basement, and just a mile from where we're at right now, and we've got a renter that lives in it now. It's old farmhouse, no air conditioning or heating in the upstairs. And I remember the first time after we were married, it was in the wintertime, we went back to see the folks, spend the weekend. And when we woke up in the morning, you could blow steam. Marlene thought she was really living in the ancient ages.
Yes.
And that was the last time we stayed at my house in the wintertime. And in the summer, it was on the west side of the house, and it had a big 2 windows, and the heat would just bake in there on those covers, you know, during the day. And I'd be out in it all day with no cab, of course, on my tractor, and that heat, and then the heat from the mattress and the covers, it just, my dad was so conservative, he would let me run a fan, but we didn't have any kind of air conditioning upstairs, so it was pretty warm up there and cold in the winter. So I grew up, learned to be conservative.
Didn't sleep out on the porch
No,
in the summer.
I was so tired I'd go to sleep no matter how hot or cold it was.
Well, I'm assuming it had electricity.
Oh yeah, indoor plumbing, but we also had an outdoor bathroom and used that a lot growing up.
We weren't quite so primitive in Kiowa. I said I was a farm girl, but actually we lived just on the edge of town and grew up in an older house, but when I was about 10 or 12, my folks built a new home. And so I really had a nice place had my own room. Of course, with 4 brothers, you just have your own room. And so yeah, I didn't have quite the primitive things that he had.
Modern conveniences.
Right.
Is what
And then, of course, after we were married and we'd come home in the summer, we had a house that we rented. So we didn't live with his parents or mine when we did come home from college. So for just a short time, we had a house on the farm, actually, a small house on the farm that we rented from a family that did. Actually, we ended up having to rent it all year so we could have that in the summer available. And then, of course, when we finished at Stillwater, we came back and lived in that rent house for, I guess, a couple of years, well, 3 or 4 years
I
actually,
was teaching.
before we bought this house that we're living in now.
And you've been here ever since. Huh?
Yes, we've been here for over 40 years actually.
Well, was it ever even discussed that you would do anything but come back here? I mean, was that always the plan?
I really didn't. When I got my ag ed degree, I really didn't expect to use it. I thought I would probably farm. But when that came available over here and they asked me to apply, and I got it, there was a lot of applications, and so I was pretty shocked that I did, but I thought I'd take advantage of that. And then Dad's he wasn't a very big farmer. He really couldn't take us in farming at the time. So what it did, it allowed me to look around and watch to see if something would come available. And I happened to know this gentleman that lived here. He had 3 daughters, no sons. And I just come out one day and said, if you ever and he was getting kind of decrepit. His back bothered him really bad. I said, if you ever decide to quit farming, I'd like to have a chance to rent your ground. It wasn't very long after that he decided to quit. So worked out really good for us.
So how many acres do you farm today?
0.
I know.
You've officially
We're
retired?
retired.
We're supposedly
officially
retired.
Well, how,
Farmers don't retire though, but anyway, we did let our son farm our ground, and then we had a hired man back then, and he's farming part of our ground too, so they're sharing in the
another heavy work?
farm acres. So.
Well, at your peak, how many did you let?
I figured that was coming, and I usually don't tell that because I don't want to upset my neighbors and my friends and by expanding
Plenty.
on
We
that.
farmed plenty to keep us very, very
Well,
busy.
here's how I usually explain it. We had 3 hired men and myself at one time, and in this area, that's a considerably large farm. So we were big enough when our son come back, I'd promised my hired man 1,000 acres if he'd get me to 66. It was hard to get good help, and he was excellent. He was my mechanic all the time for a while. So when Chad asked to come back, we said, yeah, you can come back, but here's what you're not going to get. We've already promised it to the hired man, which is quite a bit more than what the hired man was getting anyway, and he's got all he can handle, and so that's how I explain how many acres we have.
Is it mostly wheat?
Wheat, alfalfa, we have an irrigation system where we raise corn. Kind of an interesting subject if we want to talk about it later. And some sorghum, and we were diversified because we got a feedlot. We got a little feedlot, so we were raising corn silage, sorghum silage for a feedlot, and we'd bring our cattle in, and you probably want to talk about that at a later point, but
Well, I've passed some fields with yellow. What is that?
that's canola.
It's so pretty.
It's
Pretty.
blooming right now, so it
Yeah.
really is pretty.
Really pretty. So at some point you decided to purchase instead of just lease land.
This home place.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted to move to Enid. And so to do that, they had to sell this home place. So 108 acres, the creek and the house and all the buildings and about 40 acres of ground here. They sold us with the option to rent the rest that he was farming, which was about 600 acres, 500 acres, something like that. And then, well, it'd been less than that, but then he helped us get the ground that he was renting, which one of them was my uncle, and another one we didn't know, but it worked out really well, and so we started out with about 1,000 acres. And then Dad, I'd been renting 80 acres all the time I was teaching from Dad, so we had that.
Well, how many did he have? The 160, like most start
Dad,
with?
no, he had a little more than that. He probably had, probably had 500 acres.
And some of that's still in the family?
Yeah, it's all in the family.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, Kent got part of it, I got part of it.
Well, had he come or his family come through the run or something, one of the runs?
No, I'm not real sure how Grandpa Kisling got it. I'm just not real sure. Dad bought it there was 9 kids in Dad's family. And so he bought the home place from Grandpa. Well, no, he bought it from the heirs when the estate was settled. He bought it from them. I'm not real sure how Grandpa Kisling, he bought it, I think, before. He didn't get it in the run. I do know that.
Has it been in the family 100 years? That's what I'm trying to do the math. Has it been in the same family for that length of time?
1800, yeah, I think it has
So
probably.
it could be a centennial farm too.
We don't have a centennial sign, but it has, I'm sure it's been in.
Because we haven't always had, well, now that we have a hired man living there, family hasn't always lived in it. I guess up until the last few years, though, family lived in it.
Well, I don't think the family has to. It just has to be owned by
Oh.
the same family and producing a certain amount of income during,
Oh.
Well,
during
I'm
that
sure
time.
it has
So
been that.
Right, it would be
I'm
that.
sure it
we'll
has
have to
been
work
that.
on that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So, okay, you finish OSU, you come back here, and then take me through what's happened since you returned to Burlington.
Well, he taught school for 4 years, and I had a degree in math education, but of course Burlington didn't need a math teacher at the time. So I did substituting, actually here and around close by schools, and Kiowa. I'd substitute up there a lot. And then after we'd been married, what, four years or so, we started our family. And so, and then I didn't do as much substituting, but anyway, we started our family and had 2 boys and a girl.
Okay.
So, and then of course they grew up on the farm, actually here, and then they all went to OSU.
All 3?
All 3 went to OSU.
Okay.
2 of them at a time.
Yeah. One year we had a senior and a freshman. Well, and then when the middle one and the younger went, they were both at OSU at the same time. So for a few years so we had 2 at the same time at Stillwater. So we should have had a house over there then, but we didn't. But anyway, they were very active at OSU too, so they thoroughly enjoyed the experience of OSU.
Well, did they have a choice of where they went, or they
I
just?
think they did. They just always wanted to go there. Yeah.
Well, they all had choices
Okay.
because Brent was in the farmhouse. Our oldest was a farmhouse guy, and Chad was AGR. So I don't know if you know the competition between those 2 ag houses, but it's pretty competitive. And to have one in one and one in the other was kind of fun. They were, in fact, both houses were here recruiting Chad at the same time, same day.
Well, did you send them with a car, since you got sent with
Oh
one?
yeah, the pickups. They both had pickups. Kim had a car.
Then our daughter was in the sorority house. She was a Kio. And so, yeah, they all got to experience that life. And they made really good friends because of it, too, that they're still friends with today, that they met at college and in their fraternities and sororities. So it was a good experience for all 3 of them.
Would you go down and visit very often?
Well, we went down for special occasions like Spring Sing and,
Yeah.
just the different events at Mom's Day and Dad's Day. Of course, back then I think it was just considered Parents' Day, and now I think it's Mom's Day and a Dad's Day. I'm not sure they had that distinction back then, but anyway, we visited quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, if your background was math, are you responsible for keeping the books?
Yes. In
Very
fact,
good.
he still won't touch the books. But anyway, I always have to
She
do the
did.
book
That's
work.
part of the reason for our success, really. I didn't have to do the books. I didn't have to send out the bills at the end of the month. But we were pretty hooked up trying to make a living at the time. So
And I took the tax course, the H&R Block tax course, so I could know for sure how to do the books, for tax time. So anyway, yeah, I've always been doing that. I thought now that we're retired, we could share that job, but so far he hasn't wanted to share. Take
well,
your
we're
part
not
of it.
real techie. We're not techie like these young guys are, or these young families, because they do everything on a computer. Well, she's pretty techie. She's taken some class. We took some classes together, but she uses it a lot more than I do. So most of our stuff, most of our business is on computer now.
Well, when you were actually at your peak, was it on the computer or was it all by hand? And give me your receipt.
Oh yeah, we had.
Had
I
some,
guess-
but
Yeah, I did the books on the computer when those came along through the extension clubs. They came out with a class on that, how to use Quicken on the computer, and so yeah, I learned that through extension classes. So yes, I used that one when it was available.
So were you a member of a home demonstration club?
Yes,
then?
I was.
Oh,
In
yeah.
fact, I still am. I don't go quite as often as I used to, but yeah, we still do community activities, and it's good for the community to have our group. We've grown. We've got some young people in it too. It isn't just an old women's group right now. It's got a lot of young people in it, and we're thrilled over that. So, yeah, we try and do a lot for the community. In fact, this year we're actually having a senior tea for the senior girls. We used to always do that way back when, and then we kind of got away from it. The senior girls were too busy doing other things, and so this year, the senior class is not that big in Burlington this year. In fact, there's going to only be 6 seniors, and they're all girls. So we thought, well, we ought to have a senior tea for those girls. So I'm excited about that event that we're having before too long.
Is it still the happy day?
No, ours is. I was in a different group, or I'm in a different group than he was. His mom was in. It's called just OOHRP. We're called the OOHRP. But for years it was a Burlington Extension Club, and of course then they thought we needed to upgrade our name, and so we became the OOHRP.
So Extension has At least makes it this far then. I mean, they're supposed to be in every county, aren't they?
They are
In
now.
every
Yeah.
county.
Yeah, but there's not as many in the county as there used to be. There used to be quite a few. Actually, his group was not really an extension group. I didn't think Happy Day wasn't, but it was just a women's group. But yeah, there used to be, I want to say 7 or 8 clubs in the county, and now we're down to like 3 or 4 is all we have extension groups. But they're still fun because the group of ladies that I get together with are not people I see every day, because some of them go to different churches than we do and are just involved in different things. So we only see them at club meetings, so that makes it fun.
So you mentioned corn earlier.
Oh,
Yeah, that's been, we probably have one of the 2 irrigation systems in this whole end of the county, north end of the county. They just aren't any. We don't have, can't drill a well and have an irrigation system. So we live on the creek, and we've got the rights through the Water Resources Board to draw water out of the creek for irrigation. And for about 7 years, we had enough water in the creek to irrigate with out of that. So we started planting corn for silage, and decided that for the cattle in the feedlot, we decided we'd plant 2 acres of sweet corn, see how that would go. And it was amazing. I mean, it grew well, and we fertilized it, and we sprayed it. And it was quite a bit of expense and quite a bit of work, but the people, after they got to knowing that July 4th was the time to start picking, and they just come in and just clean us out on corn. And you know, we were planting 33 berries per acre on 2 acres. That's 66,000 plants, 33,000 berries per acre, 66,000 plants. And in sweet corn, most of those plants that have 2 ears to the plant, we had a lot of ears of corn out there. And they'd back up to the field and ask how much can we pick, and we'd just tell them as much as you, until it's gone. You know, pick what you want to.
We put signs around town that says our corn is ready, come pick, and of course it really went over well.
Yeah, it got to be a big deal for the community. They want to know, did you plant the corn this year? When's it going to be ready?
They wanted to come pick.
And we loved it because after we kind of had the schedule in the field. They'd run from 7 to 7. By the time they were done, we were done doing maintenance on the tractors and machinery. We'd be back to the house by 8, and that's about when it started cooling off, and the people from town would start coming out, and we'd go over on a gator and sit there. It's a little 4-wheel buggy, and sit there and watch them pick. And it's the neatest deal. We had one night had 5 vehicles with 5 different states out there picking that had come visiting their relatives, and they'd bring grandkids out and shuck corn.
Well, we were surprised some of them had never picked corn before or even knew anything about picking corn. So that was pretty neat too, to be able to educate them on the corn crop.
It was kind of fun. At the time, I was chairman of U.S. Wheat, and we were really promoting Roundup Ready wheat at the time, trying to get that started, and we were having some kickback on it because GMOs. And so we went several years and we didn't plant GMO corn, sweet corn. We just planted regular corn. And the earworms would eat it down about that far from the top, or maybe even half the ear. You could not spray it at the right time. We tried. Several times we'd spray. Couldn't get the earworms out of it. Anyway, so we were giving away a nasty product, and we didn't really like that. So they had a really expensive sweet corn that was GM sweet corn, but it would keep the earworms from getting in it. And so for $600, a 50-pound bag, you could get a bag of that. And so we started planting that, and it was, I mean, the ears were that big around, and they were that long, and they were corn from one end to the other, beautiful corn. And the people would come, what did you do different to the corn? And they'd eat it there. Some of them just shuck it and eat it.
Eat it raw?
Yes,
And I'd say, yeah. And so I asked him, I said, what do you think of GMOs? Oh, we're not for GMOs. It causes cancer. It's make you grow 11 fingers and toes. And I said, well, how'd you like the corn? Oh, it's good corn. Well, it's GMO corn. And the reason that you don't have earworms is because it's got that gene in it to keep the earworms out. Won't kill you, won't hurt you, won't harm you. If you don't want it, leave it here, I'll give it to somebody else. No, I will take it, it's fine. So I was able to promote a product that I knew about that was scientifically safe, but kind of hear how they felt about new technology in agriculture.
Using some of your teacher skills.
Right.
Yep.
Some. How long did you do that? Are you still doing it?
Oh, well, I'm not on the wheat commission anymore, but when I was chairman of US Wheat for a year, but I was on the national board for 4.
And what would you do for that type of position? I have a clue.
Yeah, well, I was promoting wheat around the world.
Oh,
So
oh.
I was in 17 different countries, and
Wow.
I sat across from Fidel Castro for 2.5 hours twice in his presidential palace, selling him wheat, trying to sell him wheat. A lot of sheiks, and we got to do a lot of traveling while Marlene stayed here minding the farm. And couldn't have done it without that. I couldn't have done it because one time in particular, I got home from the Philippines and she had the combines ready to go, and couldn't have gone on that trip. And that was about a 10-day trip.
A long way from Burlington.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Got out of Alfalfa County when I got on the wheat commission.
Well, how did you get on the commission to begin with? I mean, is it appointed or a volunteer or what? I don't know.
Appointed by the governor.
Appointed.
Okay. It's a 5-man board, and they collect the wheat checkoff money, and so they have that money, and then some of that goes to the national organization, which is the U.S. Wheat Associates. And that organization promotes and maintains wheat business around the world, and we've got offices in 17 countries, and so they send the chairman and well as an officer. You're in the officer rotation for 4 years, chairman 1 year, and so those 4 years I did quite a bit of traveling overseas to promote wheat.
So some of the wheat that's produced in this county could end up
Mm-hmm.
in one of those 17 countries.
Yeah, and one of them was Cuba. One of the trips that I went down there on, we sold them 1 million bushel of wheat. That's one cargo, one shipload of wheat is 1 million bushel. And it went out of Enid, which the wheat here at Burlington, these elevators, most of that goes to the Enid terminal. And then it goes to the Gulf, and it was put in a elevator by itself. So it wasn't contaminated with other wheat, so it all come from this area. Castro said, I want to buy your wheat, Keith, and I said, I don't have enough wheat, but I could get enough wheat from my areas. That's what he wanted to do. Kind of a neat deal.
He called you Keith?
He did call me Keith or his interpreter, yes. He had a really good interpreter. Everything he said you had to say through that, but that's it. That's what he said. He had actually looked at my resume before I went in to visit with him, and he said, I see where you've been a teacher of agriculture. You should be able to answer all my questions.
Put you on the spot for sure.
Yeah, he did.
Well, so the wheat goes from here to Enid?
Some of it, yeah.
How, by truck or?
Truck. Rail's gone, so we have to truck it all. Now, I used to have rail.
Rails.
Could do both. Now it's just truck.
And it's usually twice a year, spring and...
Oh, it trucks it all winter long.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're in and out there a lot. And in fact, we're part of Equity Marketing Association, which controls about 40% of the wheat now in Oklahoma. And they have control of these bushels of wheat over here, and they know the quality of the test weight, and the moisture content when it goes in the elevator, and they test it. So if they need a certain quality of wheat, and they know it's over here at Burlington, they'll call on that wheat for some contract to fill, and then it'll go to the Gulf or the Port of Catoosa or somewhere like that.
So it's divided over, those elevators are
Yeah.
separate, or?
Yeah, they're a tube. They're a tube.
I'm learning as we go.
You'll see it kind of indents like that.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
That indent is a tube inside there, and every one of those are a separate tube.
So, in one of the tubes could be several farmers' wheat, or just.
Oh yeah, it'd be a lot of farmers' wheat. You know, as it comes in the summertime, there's semis sitting out there to unload, and so you've got, and a lot of it goes in the same tube. So you got my wheat and his wheat, everybody's wheat in the same tube.
But it has to be similar quality.
It
to
does,
go,
and
to
they
go.
test it for
Okay.
test weight and moisture, and they'll put it in different tubes if the moisture and test weight's different, so that they can blend it in the end. You get a higher price.
So are those usually full? I mean, on
Yeah.
a good year,
Mhm.
they're full to the.
Yeah, be full. We're not gonna get that this year.
It's not. It was not a good.
Too dry, yeah, we'll get to have some rain.
It looked pretty green, but it looked short.
Yeah, it is short.
And that's back on the corn. That's why we haven't had corn the last several years. It's just been way too dry in this area to produce the corn. So the neighbors are really looking forward to a good year that we can have our corn again.
Well, would you pick some for your own
Oh, yeah.
for your own freezer? Or
Oh
if you
yes,
have
oh
freezer?
yes. Our freezer was full of corn. Yeah, we learned to fix it all different kind of ways. So.
Next time you'll have to have someone that's there roasting it.
Oh yeah,
You
right,
see those beside the road other places.
right.
They came one time, Farm Bureau did, with a pickup with a 7-foot water tank in the back of it. You know, they're about that tall and was big around as a flatbed on a pickup. And several of us picked, and we picked that thing full of corn. I don't know how many ears that was, but it was a lot. And they took it down to Oklahoma City and distributed it out to feed the children or something in Oklahoma.
That's pretty good too.
Good project.
Yeah. Would you shuck it too, or just just
No,
put the whole thing
Just
in?
pick it.
It stays fresher that way too.
Yep.
and it stays longer, better that way.
Well, being a female, were there other roles that you would participate in especially when he was out of the country? I mean, I don't know. Are there other women like you?
Well,
Or
of course, the state meetings he did go to, all of us women would go to, and then of course when they had a national meeting, we would go to. But as far as going out of the country, only a few times was the wives or the spouses invited to those, but we did get to go to the national meetings and had good bonding, and you learned about how other people are doing on their farm and what they're doing, and so I really got close with a lot of women across the U.S. that their husbands was on the wheat commission.
well, do you just discuss what other products you might be able to do? I mean, like, I don't know, recipes or whatever.
Well, we do a lot of recipes and what we did different on the farm, taking meals to the field, or and even on the bookwork too. We talk about some of that kind of stuff too. But
Most of the
yeah,
time is, what tour are you going on?
oh yeah, we did a lot of touring and a lot of shopping. We had some really good. In fact, we're still good friends with some of those that we knew through the wheat commission. That we just still really enjoy hanging out with them or calling if we can't get together. We've actually taken some trips since we've been off of it with some of the other couples that we knew back then when they were on the wheat commission also. So it's been a really wonderful experience that we had with those people.
Any of those OSU grads?
No, because they were from other states, but we
At
do
the
have
state
some.
level.
That's
At the state level, on the state wheat commission. So you
Right.
had to be on the state wheat commission to go to the national, to be on the National U.S. Wheat Association
So I
committee.
guess a few others on the state level would have gone to OSU or A&M at that time. I guess the Bonton ones would have been A&M. They were OSU grads, but I'm not sure the rest of them were. I don't know that we
Yeah, most of them, I think, were
probably went there some anyway.
Well, farming, I'm sure has changed a lot since your dad's days.
Mm.
What's the biggest change, do you think, just from the wheat aspect?
And technology's made a huge difference. Machinery's unbelievable.
Price-wise?
Well, that and then technology and machinery now that we have. We had 3 4-wheel drives, and they had GPS on them. And I was so busy keeping everybody going that I didn't drive a tractor very much because I was too busy keeping them running. But when I retired then, last year, I spent some time on the tractor. I did the job that our hired men did for Chad, so he could learn to run the operation. And I was noticing behind the seat a lot of golf magazines, and I wondered, how do they have time to read golf magazines? Well, I found out you turn the corner and you push the button for automatic, and it drives itself for a mile, half a mile across the field. You got a lot of time to talk on the phone, call people on the phone, do business on the phone, or read golf magazine.
And it's air conditioned, I suppose.
And you set the thermostat at 68 degrees. And if you don't have a breakdown, that's where you're at. It's the easiest job on the farm. They should have been paying me.
It took you to be retired to figure that out. Huh?
Yeah.
But when you were doing it back for your dad, you didn't have even a canopy, probably.
Well, he tried to have umbrella for us, but the wind would take care of that, usually the first windy day. And then we wanted to get tan, so we didn't wear a shirt.
Weren't worried about skin cancer back then, huh?
No, you really didn't. You're indispensable. And we had radios on the fender, and I took a radio out of an old pickup and mounted it on the fender, and you had to get your ear right up to it so you could hear the music. But that's what we did for radios back then.
And as when you became into a teenager, what would you do would you have dances for fun when you weren't working?
Oh, I don't remember dancing much. Go to the movies finally. We get to do something once a week, so Saturday night. Well, Dad would usually let us off early Saturday night.
In Kiowa, you either went to the movies or you drug Maine. That was a big deal to drag Maine. I don't know the kids do that anymore, but anyway.
There has to be a Maine to drag, I guess.
So, yeah, we drug Maine and hung out with our friends.
So when you went to the movie, it wouldn't be in Burlington.
No, we'd go to Alva. They had a drive-in movie to
Or
Alva.
Kiowa. Actually, Kiowa had a movie theater too.
Cherokee, they had a movie theater.
Not drive-ins, actually.
Just the one at Alva was drive. The others were just regular theaters.
Actually, at the Kiowa Theater in the summer, I would work in the concession stand. That was one of my jobs I had in the summer on the farm. I got to do the concession stand at the movies, which was kind of neat. I got to kind of see the movies then because there was always a lull in the concession stand, and so you got to watch the movies. And then I worked at the wheat elevator, and tested wheat during harvest growing up, and that was fun because I didn't really have a job on the farm really during harvest growing up, and so I helped in high school years. I helped at the elevator and helped them test the wheat and bag it up. At that time, you had to bag it all separately and put it in a room and get it ready to be sent off to be tested. They didn't do as much of the technology that they do now. And so that was one of my jobs at the elevator.
That way she got to see all the custom harvesting hands, all the hands that come through.
Right, all the truck drivers.
Truck drivers, yeah.
I probably did that at least 3 or 4 years in the summer during harvest.
Well, it's a good experience.
Oh, it was.
Too, learning the trade, so to speak, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And earn a little spending money.
Yeah.
Did you get an allowance when you were 9 years old, when you were doing the tractor work, or
I don't think so.
any
I
payment
don't
of some
think
kind?
I ever got an allowance either. That was just
No.
part of your job. You just helped
Helped
out
me.
the family any way you could. Never got to sleep late on Saturday. I have to laugh at these kids nowadays. They look forward to sleeping late on Saturday. My mom always had something for me to do on Saturday. Probably in charge of laundry. I don't even remember what I was doing, but with 4 younger brothers, I'm sure there was always something I needed to help with.
Yeah, ironing. Back in those days, they ironed a lot, didn't they?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we had one of those old ironettes. I'm not sure what they're called that had the roller. Yeah, we used that a lot to iron. In fact, it was really kind of a neat thing to use to iron with, but of course no one uses. I guess they use them in the laundry business maybe, but as far as each person and family having one, I don't think anybody has those nowadays.
I haven't seen
But they
them.
were a neat piece of equipment to have, actually.
The question I've been asking some of our farmers lately, too, is do you have a pocket knife? Do you carry a pocket knife?
And if you call that a pocket knife,
Yes, we do. And it's OSU.
Yes.
oh yeah, it's OSU Animal Science. Yep.
Yeah, no,
Always carry a pocket knife, except when I go to DC. We're going to DC next week, Sunday. You don't take a pocket knife with you there.
not on the plane, no.
Plane or those House or Senate buildings, you can't get in them.
So do you carry one when you were younger too?
Mhm.
I mean, as far
Just
back.
part of what you carry. You know, I've got something for every pocket. That's why I like 2 pockets on my shirts, because I've always got something going in them. I've got a place for everything.
But not a pocket protector. You know.
No.
So do you collect pocket knives? Do you have ones from when you were little? Do you keep up with a few?
No, you lose those.
Well, what
I'm
would
pretty
you
careful about this one.
what would you use that for today? I mean,
Today,
Top thing.
it's extremely good pocket knife, and I use it to split open wheat stems today to see if it's frozen, to check the size of the head, see if the head's healthy. I mean, you can see wheat sticky stuff on the blade right there from the wheat stem, because it's wet on the inside and sticky in it. It slices it open. You got to be able to slice it open. Yeah, I carry a pocket knife all the time.
Farmers always need a pocket knife for something.
Scraping, I don't use that one for that, but in the summertime when I used to do a lot of scraping on stuff, well, I'd have a pocket knife that I didn't care about too much.
scraping as in rust
Well,
off of a tractor or something, or what?
No, scraping, bearings and races that don't come out.
See.
A lot of rusted stuff that you want to scrape down and get smooth. I'd use it for that. Just handy to have a pocket knife. Handier than a pocket on a shirt.
Does your son carry one too? Or
You know, I had trouble getting him to carry a pair of pliers in a holder. You know, I always had, every farmer has a holder with a pair of pliers in it. Yeah, everybody does. Kind of like a concealed carry weapon, on your side. Well, everybody
start
has one of
asking
them,
that.
because you use a pair of pliers as much as you do more than a pocket knife. He didn't want that stigma of having a carrier on the side of his pants. So
Well,
He finally
young
does.
kids do, so.
he finally does now, though. He saw that you got to have that. So
pocket knives, so it may be a generational thing then.
Right.
it could be.
So when did you officially retire?
May the 9th of last year.
Oh, so you're coming up on a year.
We had a farm sale. And
Machinery
sold some of our
sale.
a machinery sale, and sold some of our machinery. Of course, some of it Clint bought, and our hard man, and then our son bought some too. But anyway, the rest of it we sold at an auction.
Was that a hard day?
You know, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would. At times I thought, oh my, this is going to be, looking back, I thought, gosh, will we ever want to do something like that? But I don't know, every age we've been through, it's been a good experience, and we were ready to move on to the next chapter in our lives, I guess I should say. And we've just enjoyed every chapter of it.
We sold the stuff that the boys weren't going to use, the extra equipment, the extra things in the shop. We sold that. But the machinery we worked for all our life, we're letting Chad have it. We're leasing to Chad, a lease purchase, so that he can use that.
Is the other son interested in farming?
No, he's not. He won't be back. Well, he was Mr. OSU. He was the king. He was king down there. He was one of the top 10 graduating seniors, top 10 freshmen.
And he married an OSU
And
girl,
he
our
married
oldest
an OSU
son did. And now their son is a senior this year, and we're so excited. He's planning to go to OSU this fall,
Yay.
so we'll actually have a grandson going to OSU.
3 generations, okay. So since last May, what have you been doing?
Well, we do a lot of grandkid events, and church events, and Farm Bureau events, and OSU events, so we've tried to do it all. And we think if we just want to sit at home, we can do that when we aren't able to get around. But right now we're busy just taking it all in and going to as many things as we can. So.
And being here to answer questions from son who's taken over the business.
When we're asked.
Well,
Stillwater's about halfway between here and Oklahoma City. Well, it's actually a little closer to Oklahoma City, but it's an hour. We can be at the airport in an hour from Stillwater House.
It's so centrally located, Stillwater, and of course we've got good friends over there that's kind of retired too, and so that makes it fun to go over there. We just
the house sit empty during when you're not there, or is it somebody?
yes, unless we have some friends that need to be in Stillwater for activities or something, we say, hey, you're welcome to use our house, and then of course our kids, if they need to be over there for some event, they stay there too.
Will the grandchild live there?
No, he won't live there, but
Mm.
hopefully we'll see him a little bit more. Since we'll be over there at times when he's going to school there.
There's somebody in about every week.
Yeah.
It's hard to find a place to stay,
Mm-hmm.
just spur of the moment in Stillwater, and especially for a ball game. It's 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, and if the kids aren't going to be there, we want somebody else to be there. So one girl got her doctorate degree a couple of years ago, and she had a Friday class, and so she'd stay there every Thursday night all winter. I like that.
And we
Yeah,
like that they
yeah.
can keep an eye on everything. And we're in a quiet neighborhood, and it's just been a really nice experience for us.
Or do you anticipate moving from here to there permanently?
I really
No,
don't.
not
We
really.
still like our farmhouse. And
About 3 days, I'm ready to come home.
yeah. I
Depends
can
on how
stay a
good the
little longer
fishing
than
is.
that. Yeah, we have
Fishing.
a pond behind our house, so he goes fishing, and of course the grandkids we've taken fishing, and so that's been fun.
There's not a pond here.
Well, we got the creek, I used to fish the creek all the time when I lived at home.
What's the name of the creek? Is that the
Driftwood Creek.
Driftwood? Yeah, that's a neat name.
Because
on
the
there.
town of Driftwood, you come through it on the way.
There's
When
still
you
a
come
little-
north of Cherokee, that little town where the church is at on the east side.
Actually,
That's
that's the
Driftwood.
church we go to, Driftwood Christian.
Okay. A lot of little small towns around up in here.
A lot of small
A
towns.
lot.
And some of them are surviving. They're not as big as they used to be, but there's still people living in them.
And I saw a sign for a fish hatchery.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
That is a fish hatchery. It's not a town. It's a fish hatchery, and they just raise fish to turn out in these different areas around. Sell them to people actually for ponds and stuff.
your property doesn't have ponds.
Mm-mm.
That's
Yeah,
just the creek.
Just the creek.
And you can't drill. You said you couldn't drill for water.
You can, but there's not an excessive amount of water, and it's not good water. It's pretty jippy, and it'll even give weaning calves on it over here at the feedlot diarrhea. So we have to run rural water when we're weaning calves. It works okay for the yearlings off wheat, but you don't want to drink it. I can tell you that.
I can just picture witching, trying to find it. Is that what they call it?
Yeah, witching. Yeah, I'm not very good at it, but I know some people. Her dad was pretty
My
good at
dad was really good at it. He could
Pretty
witch
good
for
at it.
water and witch for oil. And of course, he witched one time and said, there's a place right back behind, just west of our house. He thinks it's a good place for an oil well. They never drilled there, but anyway, he said that's where they could drill. They'd find oil. But
No, don't tell them.
Yeah.
There's enough of that going around in there.
Right.
Yeah,
There's a lot of activity in oil.
used to be
directions.
here, yeah.
yeah.
Kind of dried up.
Any on your dad's property?
We could stand out here at night and look 3 different directions and see 10 wells being drilled at one time. There was a lot of activity 5 years ago. But in that length of time, the horizontal wells, they've gone bad, and not much activity around here anymore. It's all moved south.
Do you have any quakes?
Oh yeah.
Imaginary quakes? Yes.
Oh, yeah, we've felt a few of them, but for this area, to me anyway, you have to be sitting perfectly still, not moving, and then you might feel the tremor, but we really haven't felt that many, but I guess there's been quite a few in this area, actually.
We've had a few in the library. You could just feel, you'd be sitting at your
Oh.
desk and you could just feel the wave.
Yeah, we felt
That's a
a
little
really heavy
scary.
one in Stillwater one time.
Yeah.
That's-
I mean, I didn't know what it, I'd never felt anything like it before.
But I have a California friend that we were in town at our little quick trip we have in there, and we felt one day when we were sitting in there, and she says, "Ah, that's nothing." She said, "You don't have any idea what an earthquake's like," because she was from California, and she says, "They're so much more intense out there." So we just think we have earthquakes compared to people like that.
It's just not normal. It's becoming more normal.
Right.
Yeah. So when you were at OSU as a married couple, did you go to sporting activities, or what would you do for fun while you were living in student housing?
Actually, I guess we did a few, but we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't do a lot of extra things.
Didn't go to basketball games or football games at that
Oh,
point?
yeah, but I remember, I used to do a lot of team roping. And so I had my team roping dummy down there, and I'd practice on it. And then the little kids got to coming out. We had a lot of little kids in our area there where we were living, married student housing, and they'd come out there and they'd line up 10, 15 deep out there, and they'd run by, and I'd try to heel or grab their feet, you know, and play with them in the evenings after I got off work, even into the dark. I remember doing that several nights. Just those little kids just loved it. It was kind of fun.
Back then, if we ever ate out, it was A&W root beer. It was the only place to go get any that we remembered hardly to eat, and of course we didn't eat out very often at all. And you went to the A&W.
Where was it?
It was on the north end of town, and
Main Street, I don't think Perkins was even
right. I don't think so either.
a street yet.
But it was a drive-in A&W and parking.
Well, was the hideaway might not have been there until after you
Yeah, I
left.
think it was because that one set of apartments was called
40 North.
40 North Apartments, and that was the farthest north. And now that's just kind of the main part of
And I
town.
think there was only one motel in town, that's Circle D. And we were just talking about that
Yeah,
the other
her
day. We
folks-
drove by it, and Circle D's still there, but
It's still
that
there.
was one of the very few motels that were in
Her
town.
folks come down, I think, maybe a
Couple of
time or two.
times.
I don't think mine ever
They
did.
always got to stay there. You would have thought it'd been full, but back then I don't think a lot of parents came down to see their students or their kids as much as they do now.
Did they come for graduation?
Actually, he graduated at Stillwater the very, very same day my graduation was at Alpha. So his parents went with him to graduation at Stillwater, and my parents went with me to Northwestern. So we didn't get to enjoy each other's
Each other.
graduation at all.
I graduated in the middle of this year, and she graduated at the end of the
Yeah,
year.
so that's
And
why
she
it
took
turned out to be the same day.
Some summer classes and online classes to catch up, so she only ended up a half a year behind me.
So where was your graduation?
It was in Gallagher. No, it was in the football field.
It was outside.
Yeah, yeah, football field. They didn't have you go across the stage or anything. They just set you out there in a group.
Everybody stand up when you're done.
Yep, throw your hat in the air.
I don't think we had to go across the stage, but it was on a football field at Northwestern too, also.
Well, you're still very loyal to OSU. A lot of people are. Do you know any explanation as to why that is? What is it about OSU that gets people
Well,
to be
it's
so
just such a
loyal?
friendly place, and of course, all the people are, well, most of the ones we know came from farm families or, small communities, or I would say quite a few of them probably do. And so we've just enjoyed the interaction with the other families that we know and meeting new people. I don't know, they're just all very friendly. I guess that's part of it. And of course, the activities, we love the sports, and so we've always wanted to go back for that, and all the other activities they have there. And of course, the alumni things, those are so much fun to see people that you graduated with and went through school with, and so that makes it fun too.
Well, a lot of boards and committees there at OSU, and there's something about OSU. The movers and shakers in your community are usually OSU grads, and that's really the truth. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And then so being on the different committees and boards that I'm on at OSU lets me be involved with that bunch of people. Not always from this community, but across the state. And so we saw that happening to us, and that's why we were so excited that the kids would go to OSU, because now, especially Brent, in the position that he's in, is getting that result. He's getting to be in with the movers and shakers and make a difference. And that's why we've been so loyal to OSU. I can see what it's done for us, and it could do for the kids, and has done for the kids.
Well, our kids made so many friends with, a lot of people down there, and then when they get out into the workforce, like our son Chad, he sees some of his friends from across the state in other ag events, so he's learned. And if you have a problem, you know what person to call, because they were involved in that field at OSU, and you just keep those ties going. And then, of course, like I said, our oldest son has this same situation too, that you just know which ones to call if you need an answer for something or need some information. You just
build a network.
Right.
Keep it going.
Got them all 3 jobs when they graduated. That was a big deal. That doesn't happen all the time.
No, and you had good after you graduated too. You didn't have any trouble.
No,
back then either. Finding work.
Got a job that I didn't expect. I can just put it that way. I didn't expect. So, but it was good for us. It really was.
Okay. Oh. So you've retired from farm work. Are you going to retire from OSU work?
Well, it's opened up the door to be on more
Oh, of
OSU
course,
things.
sure.
So we're still awfully involved. And that, there'll be some of those that'll go away to kind of term out of some of them. And
No,
you never know.
More will add on.
I've got other aspirations for OSU. Maybe it'll come about, maybe it won't. So we'll see.
Any you wish to share?
I eventually want to be on the Board of Regents at some point.
I don't know what it takes to get on there. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so you got a plan then.
Well, I was up for it, but I had to be off the Wheat Commission for 2 years, and I didn't know that because I was considered an officer of the state. So I had to be off that for 2 years, and then there just has to be an opening, and so they're waiting, for that opening to happen so they can appoint me. They say, we'll see.
Okay.
But there is some top-notch people from this area. You just never know what's going to happen, because
That's always been a dream, though, to get on the Board of Regents. We'll see if it happens. If it doesn't, I'm on the State Farm Bureau Board. Until that happens, I get to make a difference there.
Sure.
Hopefully make a difference.
usually when you mention Burlington, people from OSU, there's a lot of people that say, oh, I had a friend that went to school at Burlington. And Burlington is such a small town, but it reached across the state because there's a lot of people from Burlington that went to OSU and have made a difference.
Mostly connected with wheat or other things?
Agriculture, most of them in agriculture, or communications. Quite a few of them in communications. I mean, there's several young girls now that's in communications with the Co-op Council, Farm Bureau, AFR, American Farmers and Ranchers. That's just the ag groups, but yeah, they hire those girls pretty quick.
Well, do you have a favorite memory from OSU back when you were students there?
Oh my goodness.
Mine would have to be of course, being married, being there was pretty special. But being on the livestock judging team was a very special thing at the time.
I guess I really don't have one other than just getting to be involved in some of the other activities down there.
And do you know the school song?
I'm not going to sing it, but we can sing it.
Especially when they put the words up there at the ball games.
If you'll sing with us and lead us, we'll
Right.
sing it.
I can't carry a tune. I have to read it up there too. I know part of it. I don't know all of it. I should know all of it since I graduated from there too, but I don't. Well, anything else you want to add before we close off?
Go Pokes.
You know, I usually end with when history's written, what do you want it to say about you? Like, how do you want to be remembered?
Well, just that we tried to make a difference and make it a better life for everybody.
And sweet corn.
And sweet corn. Right.
We just hope that some of the things we've given back here in our older years make a difference later on for some kids back there. We've got some scholarships and things that are helping out with. We just donated one the other day to one that is gonna give money for an intern to go to DC, which, you know, Brent got to do that when Bourne was there. And that's a pretty good experience to send somebody back to DC for a summer internship.
And expose them to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes. We'll give him back. I wish she's lucky to have the two of you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you talking to me today. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.